It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning and welcome to the Travel and Cruise Industry Podcast on this, the 14th day of January 2026, coming to you from my studio in Forest, Virginia, right outside of Lynchburg. Welcome to Wednesday Travel and Cruise Industry Podcast. Today's show was brought to you by Will U.S., the owner of Scoot Around, and by chilliescruises. Not as many news stories as we've had recently this morning, but a few. The lead story today has to deal with Mardi Gras, your ultimate 2026 Mardi Gras guide to New Orleans. Also today, cruise guest misses Utopia of the Seas after Homeport mix-up. Costa Serena, first ship visiting Vietnam in 2026. MSC Poesia, February 2026 Southampton cruise canceled. Also today, a surprise from Norwegian. AIDA and the Magic. TUI names a first female captain. And the fourth Icon class ship Milestone celebrated. That and lots more live here at 11 o'clock this morning. Today, folks, is one of those days that I kind of like. It's National Hot Pastrami Sandwich Day. I enjoy a good pastrami. Quite often I'll go to a deli, as long as it's a good deli, and have a good pastrami sandwich on rye. Love it. Might have to try to do that later on today. All right, this day in history in 1952, when I was still crawling around the floor, I guess, in the house. I might have been past the crawling stages then. But in 1952, the Today Show makes its debut. I remember watching the Today Show back in the very early days when, like, Dave Garroway did the Today Show. But I was never a big fan of the early morning news show until I've gotten older, and now, and quite frankly, folks, I listen in the mornings to CNN as opposed to anything else. And CNN has more world news than just the political crap that you find on a lot of stations. Now, in the evening, I tend to lean toward MSNBC because I like a couple of those hosts much better than I like others throughout CNN, Fox, and others. But so much for that. All right, guys. So let's get started here this morning. First, I'll show you one little quick flash from Eli. Want to take a guess where that palm frond is? That's from Elizabeth in St. Martin. All right. I'll be back with today's news, folks, after a quick break from one of our fine network sponsors. All right, guys. We're going to start off our news stories today in New Orleans. Nestor, what you know about Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras is the most iconic celebration in New Orleans, transforming the city into a living spectacle of color, sound, and centuries-old tradition. Each year, the Crescent City comes alive with elaborate parades, dazzling costumes, brass bands, and an infectious energy that simply cannot be replicated anywhere else in the world. The 2026 carnival season officially begins on 12th night, January 6th, marking the start of weeks of festivities that steadily build in excitement and scale. From neighborhood parades and king cake celebrations to grand crew processions rolling through historic streets, Mardi Gras season offers non-stop opportunities to experience New Orleans culture at its most vibrant. All celebrations culminate on Fat Tuesday, February 17, 2026, when the city reaches its joyful peak. On this final day of carnival, parades roll from morning until night, music fills every corner of the French Quarter, and locals and visitors alike come together to savor the last moments before Lent begins. Whether you're drawn by the pageantry, the music, the food, or the deep sense of tradition, Mardi Gras 2026 promises unforgettable moments at every turn. From the first bead thrown to the final parade roll, New Orleans invites you to let the good times roll and experience a celebration unlike any other on earth. For more info, go to https://www.accessadventure.net/2026-wheelchair-accessible-travel-guide-to-new-orleans/. A cruise vacation unraveled for one passenger after confusion over the ship's departure port caused them to miss Utopia of the seas entirely. The incident occurred on Monday, January 12, 2026, when the guest mistakenly arrived at Port Everglades instead of the ship's actual homeport at Port Canaveral. Realizing the error too late, the guest immediately contacted Royal Caribbean International to request permission to join the ship at its next port of call in Nassau. Hoping for approval, the traveler booked refundable early morning flights from Fort Lauderdale to Nassau for Tuesday at their own expense while waiting for a response from the cruise line. The guest shared the situation on Reddit, openly acknowledging the mistake. "We pulled a major travel fail today. We've obviously missed the ship's departure," they wrote, noting that the confusion stemmed from arriving at the wrong Florida port. Because the post appeared in a Royal Caribbean-focused subreddit, and because Utopia of the Seas was the only Royal Caribbean ship departing Port Canaveral that Monday and visiting Nassau the following day, other users quickly identified which vessel had been missed. As commenters weighed in, several noted that Nassau is generally one of the easier cruise ports to fly into on short notice. However, experienced travelers also pointed out a critical caveat. Approval to board a cruise ship mid-itinerary requires clearance not only from the cruise line but also from Bahamian authorities. In this case, that approval was ultimately denied, ending the guests' hopes of salvaging the sailing. Other Reddit users shared personal stories or family experiences where joining a ship at a later port had been successful, along with practical tips for navigating Nassau, including transportation between Linden Pindling International Airport and the cruise port, which are roughly 10 miles apart. One commenter added a pointed reminder that underscored the theme of the incident. Travelers should double-check flight destinations carefully. Warning: be sure you actually go to Nassau, Bahamas and not Nassau, New York. Because Utopia of the Seas was sailing a short 4-night itinerary with stops only in Nassau and Perfect Day at Coco Cay before returning to Port Canaveral, there was little flexibility to pursue alternative official channels once the request was denied. It remains unclear whether the guest had travel insurance, and many standard policies do not cover losses resulting from arriving at the wrong embarkation port. The guest said they shared their story in hopes that other cruisers could avoid making the same costly mistake. The incident serves as a stark reminder for travelers to verify their ship's exact homeport, especially in Florida, where multiple major cruise ports operate within a few hours of one another.
All right, in case you're wondering what happened on that first story, I'm not sure why it happened. the story went nuts at the end and went into some gobbledygook there. But we were talking about, of course, the Mardi Gras, and I was simply going to point out that last night or yesterday afternoon, it was probably last night, I posted a wheelchair accessible travel guide to New Orleans for 2026 as well. Just go over on the blog site and you'll find that. So, and that's, of course, accessadventure.net. All right. Back to Nestor and the news.
The Costa Serena arrived in Nha Trang earlier this month, becoming the first cruise ship to visit Vietnam in 2026 as the vessel arrived at the Anna Marina International Yacht Harbor with over 2,960 guests on board. Offering a series of cruises in Asia aimed at international markets, the Costa Cruises vessel brought European guests to the destinations. MSC Cruises has cancelled the final scheduled sailing of MSC Poesia ahead of the vessel's planned dry dock, impacting guests booked on the February 13, 2026 departure from Southampton. The cancelled voyage was a 10-night itinerary set to sail on Friday, February 13, 2026, with scheduled port calls in Lisbon, Cadiz, Barcelona, Marseille, and Rome before concluding in Malta on February 23. With the cancellation confirmed, all embarkation points associated with the itinerary have also been withdrawn as the ship proceeds directly toward dry dock. Guests were formally notified by email, with the cruise line citing operational reasons for the decision. Regrettably, due to operational reasons affecting the deployment of MSC Poesia, we have had to cancel the scheduled cruise departing on February 13, 2026 from Southampton, the message stated. To compensate affected passengers, MSC Cruises is offering a full refund of all monies paid, along with a 50% cruise fare credit that can be applied toward a future MSC sailing. The cruise line has not confirmed a specific reason for the cancellation, but industry observers note the timing aligns closely with the ship's upcoming dry dock period. It is widely believed that the maintenance schedule at Palumbo Shipyard in Malta may have required adjustments, prompting the cancellation of the final revenue sailing before refurbishment work begins. Dry docks often involve complex logistics, and even minor schedule shifts can result in itinerary changes or cancellations. Guests impacted by the cancellation are encouraged to review refund timelines, future cruise credit terms, and rebooking options directly with MSC Cruises or their travel advisor. For more info on Poesia Cruises, contact Chillie at 434-258-9264. On American Cruise Line's American Revolution Cruise, discover the quaint towns and historic cities that have shaped our nation. Step onto the last battlefield of the Revolutionary War in Yorktown and explore the rich colonial history of Jamestown. Visit the location of the Wright brothers' first successful powered flight in 1903 and experience the 18th century city of Colonial Williamsburg, the world's largest living history museum. Travel to Mount Vernon, George Washington's iconic 18th century home, before returning to our nation's capital to view the many museums and memorials. Free airfare and a $1,200 savings on this 12-day cruise. For more information, email chillie@bookalaska.net. January is not typically a month associated with cruise disruptions for travelers accustomed to the Atlantic hurricane season, but guests aboard Noordam recently experienced just how different weather patterns can be in other parts of the world. The ship was forced to cancel a scheduled visit to Townsville on Friday, January 9, 2026, due to the effects of a tropical cyclone impacting northeastern Australia. While North American cruisers often think of storm season as running from June through November, Australia's cyclone season spans from November 1st through April 30th. That reality increases the likelihood of weather-related itinerary changes for ships sailing the region during the Southern Hemisphere summer. Noordam is currently operating a lengthy 42-night itinerary from Sydney to Auckland, which departed on December 21, 2025, making encounters with seasonal weather systems a known possibility. The January 9th port call in Townsville was cancelled due to the projected track and influence of Cyclone Koji. Local officials confirmed the decision several days in advance, noting that the ship would no longer be arriving due to weather conditions. Such early itinerary adjustments are common when a strong storm is forecast to approach a port, allowing cruise ships ample time to reroute and remain in safer waters. Originally scheduled to dock from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m., Noordam instead spent the day at sea, navigating calmer conditions away from the storm. Guests on board reported minimal disruption, with one traveler noting that the ocean remained surprisingly calm and onboard life continued as normal. Crew members maintained full services, and there were no safety concerns at any point during the diversion. Despite the cancelled port call, the impact on the overall voyage has been relatively minor. Operated by Holland America Line, Noordam has already visited nearly a dozen Australian ports, including Adelaide, Hobart, and Melbourne. Following the weather-related adjustment, the ship continued her journey north toward Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, and Fiji, keeping the epic itinerary largely intact. The situation serves as a reminder that extended cruises, particularly those spanning multiple climate zones and seasons, can occasionally require flexibility. In this case, proactive planning and early decisions ensured guest comfort and safety while allowing Noordam to continue her remarkable South Pacific voyage. Norwegian Cruise Line announced a new brand identity and national campaign. The campaign revives the cruise line's 1990s tagline, "It's different out here." A new, for all maritime, television commercial will reposition the cruise line as it sails into 2026. When Norwegian Cruise Line quietly swapped its familiar blue logo for black across its website and social media channels earlier this month, cruisers noticed immediately. The change, rolled out on platforms including Facebook, Instagram and X, sparked a wave of online speculation about what the cruise line was planning for 2026. None of the guesses were even close.
All right, if I can do this, folks, you'll see why the guesses weren't close.
Perhaps
it just lets the toes breathe.
it's just an idea. Think about it.
No!
Right. Flip-flops, cool.
Very cool. Right this way.
Norwegian Cruise Line. It's different out here.
Okay, now, so where am I here, folks? I got to get back to where I was. I'm not at all sure if that played or not. I couldn't tell from my end. Anyway, it's pretty comical commercial, I thought, with the ships and them talking about uncomfortable with the wool uniforms and could they get flip-flops, and it was pretty good. I don't know what it has to do with taking a cruise, but that's me. So, all right, Nestor, let's try to get something from AIDA.
The German cruise line AIDA Cruises is expanding its international sports footprint with a new partnership in professional basketball, teaming up with the NBA's Orlando Magic as the cruise line pushes deeper into entertainment-driven brand exposure. The partnership launches around the Magic's European appearances in January, as the organization continues to grow its international fan engagement platform and strengthen partnerships tied to major global events. For AIDA, the partnership represents a premiere in U.S. professional basketball and a chance to connect with a broader, younger, and increasingly diverse sports audience. TUI Cruises has named Kira Shakur as the first female captain in the Mein Schiff fleet, placing her in command of the cruise ship Mein Schiff 6, a first for German Cruise Line. Shakur's promotion stands out in an industry where senior bridge roles have long been dominated by men. For TUI Cruises, the appointment signals both a major personal step for Shakur and a visible shift in leadership across a large, established European cruise brand. Meyer Turku marked another milestone in the construction of Royal Caribbean International's fourth Icon-class cruise ship, announcing that the vessel has entered a new stage of assembly as its first cabins were installed on board on Friday, January 9, 2026. According to the Finnish shipbuilder, the cabins are fully prefabricated by its subsidiary, Piikio Works, as complete modular units before being transported to the Turku shipyard and lifted into position. The company said the factory-built approach is designed to speed up the schedule and streamline installation by reducing work that would otherwise be done inside the ship during construction. American Cruise Lines is preparing to launch a new Gulf Coast itinerary in March 2026, deploying the American Symphony, a vessel with capacity for 180 guests, on a route between New Orleans and Pensacola. The inaugural voyage is already sold out. The ship will call upon 6 ports en route: Gulfport, Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, and finally back to New Orleans. For information on this cruise, email chillie@bookalaska.net.
All right, that's going to put an end to the news portion of today's show. Let's jump over and see who's fussing me over in the chat room today. Gretchen's with us. Good morning, guys. Katie's here. Amigo John's with us. Good morning, John, up in Crookston, Minnesota. Good morning, everybody. Below zero here today. Take me on a cruise. Getting ready to, John. We're getting a lot closer now. There's Mike from the other side of the pond saying good morning to everybody. Gretchen says, waiting for the transition to 0-degree weather tonight. Yeah, we're going to get a little colder too. We're not getting that cold, thank goodness. Bob's with us. Good morning, Bob. Bad weather on the way. Yeah, I think we're all expecting some bad weather tomorrow. Mike says, hello to John. Gretchen saying hello to everybody else. Where's Tom? She wants to know. Mike says they finally left their current cold bomb. Always glad to hear that. Oh, by the way, since Mike reminded me, he didn't remind me, but because of where he's from. But remember when we talked about our friend that Hot Air Tom and I went to visit up at Lois, what was the name of that town? Anyway, the one that had the crazy Harley scooter. We went out to lunch with her. She had a wreck on her scooter and was last night was in the hospital waiting to get stitched up. So sorry to hear that. Certainly thinking about you on getting better really quick over there on the other side of the pond. Let's see what am I looking for here, folks? Oh, I know what it was. It was this and I can't remember Loisburg. Anyway, it's Viv. Had the wreck on the scooter. I can't remember the name of the burg. A pretty little town right on the water. We had crappy weather, really, really awful weather. But anyway, so Viv, hope you bounce back real quick, hon. Thinking about you. All right, so let's see, where was we? Were up here in the chat room. Gary Older Than Dirt is with us. Good morning, Gary. Mike says, hope Tom's kidney stone haven't returned after blasting. Yeah, I hope not too. There's, speaking of the devil, there's Hot Air Tom. Says hello to everyone. Regarding the cruiser who went to the wrong port, another good reason to arrive the day early so mistakes can be corrected with minimal loss. Brightline to Orlando on a ride to the port would have fixed it. Yeah, that's very true. Of course, some of us just take that as a normal that we go a day early. And I do most of the time. I've gone on the same day a couple times, but I don't like to. I like to get there a day early. Sonny's with us, says, hello all. Gloomy day here. Sorry about that, Sonny. There's Roger down in Jacksonville. Hey, Roger. Sonny says, Mike, hope you can get out of the house now. That's true. There it is, Lowestoft. Lowestoft. That was from Odd Air Time for Viv. I can remember the Lowe's, Lowes part. For some reason, I couldn't put the back end on it. Lowestoft. Nice little town. Yeah, Mike said it's the same thing. Yes, that's correct. Tried to get to town today, but too weak. We'll try again tomorrow. Okay, well, get stronger. You got to do that. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. Let's see. Oh, I did have a couple things to report. Yesterday, two things happened in the positive. I had an appointment with cardiology, and not only did I get, good marks from the last round of testing that they did, they were extremely helpful in getting all the transfer of records ready, and I mean they went out of their way to help, which I haven't found that on any of my other medical folks so far. So that was nice. And then, even though I had dreaded going to Goodwill, because the last time I was there, I was really snotty and made me get out of the car and unload the tubs, even though I was disabled. Well, yesterday, it was like they rolled out the red carpet. I got out of the car to unload the tubs, and he says, oh, no. He said, I'll take care of that. Get back in the car. Sit down. I'll take care of getting it out of here. Okay, so they unloaded everything for me. Sonny says, please pray for Don. His cancer's back. Yes, I have been following along that. Of course, Don and I are very similar in the situations that we've both had with cancer, and very similar situations with the amount of time we kind of recovered from cancer. And I'm always sorry to hear when any of my fellow survivors has a setback. So I agree, Sonny. My thoughts are with Don as he's going through some tough times right now. So, all right, guys, that is going to wrap me up for today. I will be back here on Friday, continuing with my packing and hauling stuff out of here as we go. I've also started now moving some stuff into the den, which is going to be where I'm parking it for Jason to pick up and load in his car when he comes out here while I am on the Grandiosa cruise. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Don't forget, smash the thumbs up button. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything. That'll help us out a bunch. The bell notification will let you know when I go live or when a new video is posted. For today, guys, as always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you back here on Friday.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chilliescruises.